Hi, good morning students. So we are discussing about applications of the Gauss law. In that we are started in the last class properties of the conductors. So there are some other applications or the other properties of the conductors. So we have to continue those. I hope all of you understand the previous properties. Those are easy only, basic properties. Those are. And these are very important properties. Again I am saying that. So now let us continue that. So I think we discussed nearly 6 points I think based on that Gauss law. And so now here let us continue that the electric field inside this cavity here. So electric field inside the cavity, and that is also nothing but we called electrostatic shielding actually. So that means here I am taking that a sphere with some cavity is placed in some external, this is a cavity here, it is placed in some external field. So some external field is present in that region. So some external field is present like this. So in that we are placing some material with some cavity here. So this is some cavity. Cavity means some empty space. Some empty space will be there inside this solid conductor. This is a solid conductor. So solid conductor with cavity. That means we are placing such a solid conductor with cavity in external field. Now we are going to consider how this external field produces or affects the cavity space. How much field will be there inside this cavity, now we are going to discuss that. So in the previous property, we discussed that whenever you are placing some external, that means conductor in some external field, some induced charges will be produced in that conductor such that net electric field inside the conductor is 0, right? And so now what about cavity? If cavity is present inside that, then what about the cavity? Let us consider here. So now here suppose if you assume that some electric field is present, you may consider that. Now here I am taking a Gaussian surface just around this conductor here. That means just outside the surface of the cavity, I am taking a Gaussian surface. So this dotted line is our Gaussian surface. So now let us apply the Gauss law here. So by Gauss law, so we can write this as phi is equal to integral of V bar dot ds bar is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times q in, right? And so now that q in is nothing but charge present inside the Gaussian surface, and E is this E into d bar is this electric flux inside this. We are taking just inside that. So just inside this Gaussian surface there. And so that you can conclude that now here we are taking the Gaussian surface just outside the surface of cavity. Just outside the surface of cavity means you can conclude that electric field inside this conducting material. We are taking the Gaussian surface inside the conducting material. So inside conductor E is equal to 0. Therefore, that implies you can write that phi is equal to 0, that is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times q in. That means q in is 0. That means no charge will be induced inside the conductor here. So only charge, if any charge induction takes place, that takes place only on this outer surface of this conductor like this. But no charge will be present inside this conductor. No charge is induced inside the conductor. When no charge is induced inside the conductor, no electric field will be present inside that. Because now you may consider the Gaussian surface, after concluding that you may consider the Gaussian surface inside the cavity. Once if you take the Gaussian surface inside the cavity, then you can conclude that charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface is 0, and then electric field should also be 0 then, because that flux should be 0, then electric field inside this conductor or that will be 0, we can conclude here. So this is one conclusion what we are getting. No charge is present inside the cavity. Got it what I am saying? Just we are placing a conductor inside the conductor, inside the external field, then we know charges will appear on the surface of the conductor. Now we are checking whether any charges are induced inside the that means on the surface of cavity or not. For that, what we are taking is, we are taking a Gaussian surface just on just outside the surface. That means just outside the surface of the cavity, which is nothing but inside the conductor. So as we are taking inside the conductor, then this electric field is 0 inside the conductor, and so then flux passing through that will be 0. So charge enclosed will be 0. So that means no charge is induced inside the conductor. So I can write no charge is induced inside the conductor, sorry, inside the cavity due to external electric field. That means if any such electric field is present here, due to that electric field, no cavity will be produced inside that. So if any such external electric field is present here, so due to that no charges are produced inside the surface of cavity. Those charges will be induced only on the outer surface of this body there, outer surface of the conductor. Now here itself we can conclude that if no charges are there inside the cavity, then what will be the electric field here? Electric field inside that cavity should be 0, because here you can conclude that this external electric field is not external electric field. Here if I consider a point here, external electric field is for example along this direction, then induced electric field will be along this direction, and so that resultant electric field will be 0. But here there is no such a induced electric field, and so there is no external electric field also. No external electric field will be present inside this conductor, inside this cavity. And if you want to prove it again, now I can consider the Gaussian surface just inside the surface of this cavity here. I am taking another Gaussian surface there. And so now again apply the Gauss law for such a surface there. By Gauss law for Gaussian surface just inside cavity. So just inside cavity we are again applying this. Now this I can write as integral of phi into E bar dot ds bar is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times charge enclosed. Now from this expression, from this conclusion, we are getting that charge enclosed will be equal to 0. So E bar dot ds bar will be equal to 0, and from this we can conclude that electric field inside this cavity will be 0. And so no electric field will be present inside that external inside that cavity there. And such a phenomenon is nothing but actually we called electrostatic shielding. That means in such a, if a conductor is having some cavity, and if such a conductor is placed in external electric field, then that external electric field cannot affect the any object placed inside that cavity there. So that is nothing but we call electrostatic cavity here. So that is electric field inside the cavity due to the external electric field. So mention that here, can finally write the conclusion there. So that means just we are by here itself we can conclude that again we are writing the Gauss law for the inner by taking another Gaussian surface, then we are concluding that. When a conductor, finally write that, when a conductor with some cavity, when a conductor with some cavity is placed in external electric field, is placed in external electric field, then no electric field will be present inside the cavity. No electric field present inside the cavity. This is called electrostatic shielding. This is called electrostatic shielding. By using this property, we can protect the devices. We can protect the sensitive devices from the external fields. We can protect the sensitive devices from the external fields by placing them in a metal box. So like external devices in the sense like some sensitive instruments like galvanometer will be there. And suppose if you are placing such a galvanometer in a metal box here, this is suppose such a device here. Now this is a metal box. So if you are placing inside this metal box here, if you are placing that any external field is present here, then such a external field cannot affect this metal box, because inside this electric field will be zero. Inside now with a metal box, in the sense it will behave like a cavity. So inside the cavity this external field cannot penetrate through that metal box, and so that means it cannot be present inside here. So no field will be present inside this metal box here, and so there is no effect of that external field on this device, any device which you are placing inside this. And so that is nothing but we called only field will be present outside this box here, and that is nothing but we called electrostatic shielding. Got it? So such a devices can be closed, can be placed inside the metal boxes, so that external field cannot affect that devices. And that is, in the beginning we discussed one example also. That means during the rainy season, if suppose any thunderbolt is there when you are traveling in a car, so where we should be to protect ourselves from that thunderbolt. Like options there will be there, like we should be under the car, or we should out of the car, like we should run near to a tree, and we should remain inside this car. So such options will be given. So the correct option there is we should remain inside the car, because now the thunderbolt is nothing but that is some external field. A very strong field will be there. Strong electric field will be there, or we discussed already, electric discharge will take place between the clouds and the ground, and so very strong field will be there. And so because of that, that means due to that external field, if you are there inside the core, if you remain inside the core, then that core will behave like a metal box. So inside the metal box, no field will be present there, and so we can protect ourselves safely by remaining inside the core only. So that is the explanation for that. That is nothing but we call electrostatic shielding there. Got it? And so now let us move to the other example now. Energy density and mechanical. About cavity, some more properties we need to discuss there. And before that, I will discuss about some other electrostatic, that means mechanical force, that means electrostatic pressure, and energy density expressions will be there. First we will discuss those expressions, and after that we will go to the these cavities, and then you can continue some problems based on that. And so now I am writing this electrostatic pressure, or we can call that as, sometimes we call that as mechanical force. And so for that, again let us consider a conductor of any shape here. So previously we derived, in the last class we derived an expression for electric field due to the conductor of any shape. So this calculation will be somewhat similar to that. And so now here I am taking this conductor of any shape having some surface charge density sigma here. Some surface charge density sigma is given to this, right? So this is some surface charge density sigma is given. Now here totally I am dividing this object into two parts. And so we know electrostatic pressure is nothing but there in the beginning we discussed like the effect of charging. When you are discussing about the effect of charging, how the mass of the object changes and how the radius of the object changes, then there we discussed that when you are giving some charge to the soap bubble, whether it may be positive charge or negative charge, and so there we discussed that what will happen to the size of the bubble. What will happen? So there we discussed already, the size of the bubble will slightly increase. So that means if any such a flexible object if you are placing, if you are giving some charge, whether it is positive charge or negative charge, the size of the object will slightly increase, right? Now here that means when you are discussing all those properties, there I said we will discuss later, we will discuss later, we will discuss later. So these are the explanations. That means with the help of this Gauss law, you can explain those properties of the charges there. And so now here, now we are going to discuss how much force or how much pressure will develop in such a case. When you are giving the soap bubble, we are discussing that, we discussed that the size of the bubble will that means that size of the bubble will increase, because here if you are taking some positive charged object like this, and now here if you can consider that you can divide this into number of elements here. So this is one element, suppose if I consider another element here, if I consider here. Now this element and this element will experience some net repulsive force like this, some dF and dF. So like that every element will experience, not only these two, this element will experience a force due to remaining all elements here, right? Similarly this element will experience a force due to the remaining all elements. So similarly every element of the object will experience a force due to the remaining all objects, all elements of that objects. And so that because of that repulsive force, finally some expansion will take place for that object here. Now similarly we are dividing this into two such a parts. That means one part is one element we are taking here. Let us take some dA area, right? So this element is one part, the remaining whole object as another part, right? So that means I am taking two parts like that. The total object is divided into two parts like this. One is small element of area dA and the remaining is total object there. And so now let us find the electric field at this point here. I am taking a small Gaussian surface, again cylindrical. So this derivation is somewhat similar to that of our previous calculation, the previous sigma by epsilon naught derivation, the last class. And so now here I am taking a Gaussian surface like this. So this is our Gaussian surface. This is our Gaussian surface. Now electric field at that point, and let us say electric field at this point. This is point A and this is point B, let us consider here. Now electric field at this point due to this element and due to this object, say E1 along this direction and due to this element E2 along the direction, both are positive charge, so they will be along the direction there. That means here we are taking E2 is electric field due to small element, right? And E1 is electric field due to the remaining object except this element. So this is electric field due to the remaining object, except that element. That is the meaning there, right? So that means we are assuming that we are dividing the object into two parts, one small element and remaining object. So E1 is electric field due to the remaining object and E2 is electric field due to that element we are taking. Since both are positive, that electric field will be there in upward direction like that. And next here, at this point, the electric field due to this positive charged element will be in downward direction. E2 is electric field due to that small element, that will be in downward direction. And so the electric field due to the remaining object should be in upward direction. How to conclude that? Because the electric field inside the conductor will be 0. Now this is a point inside the conductor. We are taking a point B is inside the conductor and a point A is outside the conductor, right? So our point B is inside the conductor. So inside the conductor, the electric field should be 0. Electric field should be 0 means the electric field due to the remaining object should be equal and opposite to this field due to the element here. So this E1 should be along this direction here. So this is the direction of our E1, right? Now at point B, at point B, which is inside conductor. Inside conductor. So electric field at point B is equal to E1 minus E2. This value should be equal to 0, right? That means electric field at point B is inside the conductor, which is inside the conductor. Inside the conductor, electric field is 0, that we already know. And so the resultant of these two values must be 0. And so from this we can write that one important conclusion as E1 is equal to E2. That means electric field due to that small element and electric field due to the whole object, remaining object, they are equal in magnitude. That is the conclusion what we are getting here. The electric field due to the small element and the remaining object, they are equal in magnitude. Here you may get a doubt how that electric field due to the small element will be equal to electric field to the whole object. The reason is simply the electric field due to this whole object, in the sense if you are dividing into elements here, the electric field due to some of the elements each other. And so that electric field due to only some elements will be there at that point. That depends on the shape of the object there, right? And so that some elements they cancel the electric field with each other, so that the electric field to the whole object is also equal to the magnitude of electric field to the small element. That is possible. And next here, similarly, let us write just outside this point, just outside that sphere. So at point A, which is just outside the conductor. So which is just outside the conductor. So just outside the conductor we know the electric field. Therefore electric field at point A should be equal to electric field E1 plus E2, they will be in same direction, which is equal to sigma by epsilon naught. So this sigma by epsilon naught is just outside the conductor. So right. So this we derived already in the last class. Just outside the conductor, our electric field will be resultant electric field due to the conductor of any shape will be sigma by epsilon naught only. Right. So this then you can write at this point A as E1 plus E2. That E1 plus E2 is equal to sigma by epsilon naught we can write. Now let us simply equate that. So I will write here, then just I am equating them. The electric field then E1 plus E1 is equal to sigma by epsilon naught, and since that E1 is equal to E2, that means E1 E2 are magnitudes are same, so then E1 is equal to E2 I am writing here. Therefore I can write this as 2E1 is equal to sigma by epsilon naught, and therefore this E1 is equal to sigma by 2 epsilon naught. So that means that will be the electric field due to the whole object, remaining object. Yeah, that will be the electric field due to the remaining object. So now in this electric field our small element is present here, right? So now we need to write that E1 value is also same, but E2 is also same, but E2 is not required for us. So now that is the electric field with the whole object there. Got it? Now we need to use it to write the force expression. I am dropping this part. And so now let us write about the force now. Now this is E1 is, remember this again, or E1 is electric field due to the whole object in this region. This point A is just outside this surface only, and so this element of this object or this element is lying in that electric field, and so that element will experience a force due to that electric field. The force on small element due to field produced by a remaining object. So which is nothing but E1. remaining object, which is nothing but E1. Therefore, as we are writing the force on the small element, I am writing like dF is equal to. So then I can write this as E1 into dq, the charge present on that small element, right? And so therefore I can write this as dF is equal to sigma by 2 epsilon naught into the dq. The dq I can write as sigma into dA, right? And therefore this force we can write as dF is equal to sigma square by 2 epsilon naught into dA. So this is the force expression here. So the force expression is given by this. So this is nothing but our force on the small element due to this charged object. So then dF is equal to sigma square by 2 epsilon naught into dA. dA is the area of the small element on which we are calculating that force. And from this you can write the pressure. So that means simply you can divide this dA that side, then that is our electrostatic pressure here. So I can write this as now electrostatic pressure is equal to, therefore I can write electrostatic pressure. So this is nothing but our force or mechanical force. Therefore this electrostatic pressure dF by dA is equal to, I can write this as sigma square by 2 epsilon naught. So this will be the pressure expression there. Got it? So you need to remember that expression, electrostatic pressure. So electrostatic pressure due to this any charged object is given by sigma square by 2 epsilon naught, where sigma is the surface charge density present on it. So you can write if you are taking a small force acting on the small element and force acting on the small element, you can write like this. So it is electrostatic force definition or electrostatic pressure expression there, right? And here let us see one simple example or simple problem based on this electrostatic pressure. So write that as a problem based on this. A spherical shell of radius r having surface charge density sigma. A spherical shell of radius r having surface charge density sigma is divided into two halves. Is divided into two halves. That means two equal parts. Then what should be the force applied on each hemispherical part? What should be the force applied on each hemispherical part? What should be the force applied on each hemispherical part such that they are placed together to form a sphere. They are placed together to form a sphere. That means we are cutting that. When you are cutting that, then due to the repulsive force, they should move away from each other because of the repulsive force on the each sphere. Now we are placing them together by applying some force here. So we need to calculate this, how much force we need to apply here. How much force we should apply on each sphere, each hemisphere to form a complete sphere. So that is our question. So for this we can derive it easily here. So now say this. We know electrostatic pressure is equal to. So electrostatic pressure. So therefore it is dP is equal to, or P. So that electrostatic pressure P is equal to, I can write this as sigma square by 2 epsilon naught, right? Now that sigma square by 2 epsilon naught, now we need to write the force. And so therefore force on each hemisphere is F is equal to, I can write this as P into A, that pressure into area. So area means how much area we need to consider means the area of the projection. The area of projection of the hemisphere. Now it is similar to that of our fluid mechanics. In fluid mechanics we calculated the pressure. So now the horizontal component of the force is nothing but equal to the force acting on the projection. So that means here that is nothing but, suppose I am taking this left hand side hemisphere. So it's a projection means then you will get a circular disc like this. So now the projection is nothing but this is a circular disc of radius r you will get. So this is the projection here. This is a projection of that hemisphere. So the force acting here is nothing but the force acting on this we can say here. So force acting on that hemisphere we need to calculate. That means the electrostatic repulsive force will act along this direction. This is the electrostatic force. Electrostatic force, and now we need to apply an equal amount of external force here. That means this electrostatic force is because of the other hemisphere. The other hemisphere will exert some force on this electrostatic force, and we need to apply an equal amount of force here. So we are calculating now these two are equal. In equilibrium these two are equal. So we are calculating this force here as we know the expression for this. So the electrostatic force acting on this area we can write as, so that area of the projection we need to consider there. Therefore that F we can write as, this P is nothing but sigma square by 2 epsilon naught. Sigma square by 2 epsilon naught into pi r square I can write. Area of that circular disc we need to write. Remember that means it is just similar to our fluid mechanics there. This force is exerted by this electrostatic force here. This force is exerted by the right hand side hemispherical part due to its electric field on this hemisphere. And so now in equilibrium these two are equal here. This applied force should be equal to this electrostatic force. And so then this the force required we are writing it. This is nothing but our formula for electrostatic force. So just we are writing that. And simply that A means you can calculate it as pi r square. And then it's by if you are solving this equation by using some integration, then it will be a lengthy calculation will be there. Just by taking the projection you can calculate it easily. Or sometimes if a charge is given there, instead of giving that say that sigma, if charge is given, suppose I am taking that, sometimes I may give the sigma value or sometimes I may give the q value. If q is the charge given to sphere or given to the shell, then we can write it as sigma is equal to q by 4 pi r square we can write, and therefore substitute that value there, then you will get the expression in terms of this sigma, in terms of this q. Directly I am writing this q square, so that means sigma square means q square by, this is 4 square means 16, you will get 16 pi square r power 4 into 2 epsilon naught into pi r square, right? And so now this I can write it as q square, that pi r square will be cancelled, 32 pi r square epsilon naught. So this will be the force acting force that should be applied on the each hemisphere, so that it will remains in equilibrium there. That part will remains in equilibrium. So that means if you are doing by integration method, it will be a lengthy process. You can simply calculate like this by taking that such a projection there. So it is some application of this. Electrostatic pressure. There may be such a lot of problems may be there. The only procedure is same. Just we need to remember this electrostatic pressure expression. Then force is nothing but pressure into that area we can consider there. And sometimes they may ask the question like this. So like suppose it's a spherical object having some surface charge density sigma, right? Sigma is a surface charge density, and due to some physical process, a small part of the surface is removed suddenly. Due to that some physical process, the small part is removed here suddenly. That means it becomes free from that object. Then its area is, suppose its mass is m, and the area is suppose say dA, the area of that small element. Then what is the initial acceleration of that small element? They will ask a question like this. So write it as the next problem. From a spherical conductor. So spherical conductor means there is no problem whether it is solid or shell, the charge will distribute only on its outer surface. From a spherical conductor of radius r having surface charge density sigma, surface charge density sigma, a small part of mass m and area dA suddenly becomes free without affecting the remaining sphere, then find initial acceleration of the small element. So the same, without affecting means there is no any bouncing back of this material here, it will remain there only. So then just again same, we know the electrostatic pressure P is equal to sigma square by 2 epsilon naught. Now force on that element I am writing here. So force acting on that element is dF is equal to, I can write this as P into dA. Therefore this dF is equal to sigma square by 2 epsilon naught into dA. And therefore this acceleration is nothing but the dF by m you can write here. So then you can write it as sigma square by 2m epsilon naught into 2m epsilon naught into dA. So this will be the acceleration F by m. This A is equal to, just we are writing as F by m expression here. So it is the acceleration of this element, right? There is initial acceleration they mentioned, so that is why we are naming it as initial acceleration, because of this acceleration it starts moving away from that, right? When it starts moving away from that, when it is at some distance from the sphere, the electric field, the same electric field may not act on that object there. Then force also changes, and there may be there will be changes in this acceleration also. So that will be a variable quantity. After some time, if you want to calculate, this is just after removing from that sphere. So now let us say, suppose we are taking this surface charge density sigma to this soap bubble. Let us take now it as a soap bubble of radius r, and the sigma is the surface charge density. Now we know we need to write this excess pressure here. Pressure is equal to 4T by R we can write here, right? That is our soap bubble excess pressure formula. Now here when you are giving some charge to this material here, so this inside pressure means actually this pressure will be there like this. This Pi, inside pressure will be there like this, and outside pressure will be there like this. So the resultant we are writing, inside pressure will be greater than this outside pressure. Now suppose when you are giving some charge to this material here, we are saying that the charge, that bubble will experience some outward force, and so due to that the size of the bubble will increase, that we already discussed there. And so that means this electrostatic pressure what we are discussing is that will be also be in outward direction only. Now this I am taking as electrostatic pressure as PE, electrostatic pressure. So this pressure will also be in outward direction only. This electrostatic pressure will also be in outward direction only. Now this excess pressure with this charged object, that means in case of charged bubble, the excess pressure inside a charged bubble. So inside a charged bubble is this delta P is equal to, now we can observe that P from inwards to outwards. So then I can write this as Pi plus Pe minus P naught is equal to This will be the pressure there, excess pressure we need to write here. And so now this value I can write this as PE minus P naught plus this value is nothing but we can write it as excess pressure value sigma square by, that means electrostatic pressure we can write as sigma square by 2 epsilon naught, right? And so now this value I can write this as this excess pressure inside the soap bubble. This will give the excess pressure inside the soap bubble due to this charged object. Now just we are writing this P square by, when this charging is not there, then this will be the excess pressure then. Only this term will be there. Now in addition to that, now this excess pressure term will be there like this, right? So in this you can write this excess pressure as like 40 by R, change the marker. So this term will be 40 by R. And now suppose if I want to write this excess pressure, now the resultant excess pressure if I want to write, then this value is 40 by R, and therefore this Pi minus P naught is equal to, this value we can write as 40 by R minus sigma square by 2 epsilon naught, right? Now this will be the resultant excess pressure for us when you are charging this bubble. Now sometimes they will ask a question like what will be the charge density or charge density to be given to this bubble, so that net excess pressure on that bubble will be 0. The resultant excess pressure inside and outside that pressures must balance with each other. So balance with each other means that is nothing but this value must be equal to 0. Then you can equate and find the sigma value from this. If Pi minus P naught is equal to 0, this is now Pi is nothing but resultant electric field there, that is nothing but that is equal to 0. Then you can write this as 40 by R minus sigma square by 2 epsilon naught is equal to 0, and from that you can write the sigma square is equal to 8 epsilon naught T by R we can write, and so sigma is equal to 8 epsilon naught T by R. So write that. So write it as a question. So write it as the next problem in that. Find the surface charge density to be given to a soap bubble. The surface charge density to be given to a soap bubble such that the net excess pressure of the soap bubble becomes 0. Net excess pressure of the soap bubble becomes 0. So now write this. Then you can copy this. Electrostatic pressure is sigma square by 2 epsilon naught. Then excess pressure inside a soap bubble we can write as Pi plus. In addition to this original excess pressure, now we are getting some electrostatic pressure also. Minus P naught is equal to 40 by R. That means this R value will changes there when like charge is not there, when charge is present, both these two R's are not same. Just this is the formula I am writing here. These two R's are not equal here. When you are giving some soap bubble, the size of the bubble will increase when you are giving some charge. Then thereby this equation will satisfy here. So Pi plus Pe minus P naught is equal to 40 by R. Then just we are substituting this value here, sigma square by 2 epsilon naught, and that's we are writing outside. Now this will be the excess pressure between this inside pressure and outside pressure, that we call the excess pressure here. So then this is the excess pressure here. If this value is 0, then this value should be equal to 0 here. Then we can write this, from this you can calculate the sigma value. So that means if you are giving that amount of charge or charge density to this bubble, then net force or the net pressure acting on this bubble will become 0. So that means there is a net, the inside and outside pressures will be become equal. That is the case there when you are giving such a bubble, when you are giving such an amount of charge. Let's see this energy density calculations, which is similar to that of this pressure expression. So next let us say this energy density. So first of all, this energy density is nothing but so generally we define the energy density when energy is distributed in the space. So energy density is nothing but energy per unit volume. So generally it is represented with the U, and if it is electrostatic energy density UE, and magnetic energy density means we represent with UB. So here it is electrostatic energy density UE is equal to this total energy per unit volume we need to write here. That is the meaning of this energy density. Got it? So that means energy density we will define whenever there is energy distributed in the space. So now here whenever this charge is present, now we are saying that some energy, that means some field will be produced around this charge, that we are calling as electrostatic field. So whenever such a field is there, some energy will be associated with that charges also, or such a field also, and that energy is nothing but we are defining in terms of energy density here. So it is the meaning of this energy density, and so the unit will be joule per meter cube we can write. Now let us see an expression for energy density. Just write the definition. The energy per unit volume is called energy density, and this expression, write this expression, right? So now let us see this energy density calculation here. Expression for this energy density. Suppose I am taking this a flexible object having some surface charge density sigma here. Like flexible object in the sense which is free to expand or contract depending on the situation, like our soap bubble, like our previous problem soap bubble. So it is having some surface charge density here, right? Let's suppose that surface charge density is sigma. Now here because of this, and in the previous derivations we discussed that there will be some electrostatic pressure acting on that, and so because of this the electrostatic pressure will be there, or electrostatic force will be there on this, and because of this electrostatic force, suppose I am taking a part here, this part is expanding to this position here, right? The expansion of the material is taking place. Suppose I am taking a small part here, that small part is expanding to this position here. That means we are taking the size of this object is increasing. So the size of this object is finally increasing. Let us consider about a small part here. Because of this electrostatic repulsive force or the electrostatic outward pressure, the size of the object is increasing. And so now here this object is displacing by this amount here because of this electrostatic force acting on this. And so that I can write this as electrostatic pressure is equal to pressure P is equal to sigma square by 2 epsilon naught. Next force is equal to dF is equal to sigma square by 2 epsilon naught into dA, right? And so now let us take it is traveling a distance x here. This element is whatever the element you are taking here. Suppose say this element let us take here. This element is traveling to this position here through a distance x. Now let us write work done by this force here. Work done by this force for the small displacement. Work done by this force on small element we are writing here, on small element for that small displacement. So this dW is equal to, I can write this dF into x we can write, where x is the displacement of that small element. As both are in same direction, you can say that as cos 0. The angle between them is Fs cos theta formula. So then this amount of work done is nothing but I can write this as sigma square by 2 epsilon naught into dA, this is our force, into x. And now this amount of work done, we say this amount of work done will store as energy in that space. So this amount of work done will stores as energy, and therefore I am writing this dW as du, energy. This is sigma square by 2 epsilon naught into x into dA. And so now x into dA, suppose I am taking this dA as this part, or for example dA means let us take this part here. Now this dx into the dA into dx, this part will give us almost the volume of this element. This actually, this expansion will be very small only. Very small expansion will take place. And so now that dx into dA we can take it as small amount of volume we can write here. So I will write that part here. Continuation I am writing here. And so therefore this part we can write it as du is equal to sigma square by 2 epsilon naught into dV I can write, where dV is volume of the small element. So volume dV is equal to x into dA we are writing, and therefore this is nothing but du by dV is equal to sigma square by 2 epsilon naught. Now this is nothing but our energy density, energy per unit volume, right? Therefore I can write this energy density is equal to, which we are representing with the small u, is equal to sigma square by 2 epsilon naught. So this is a formula for this energy density now. Energy density means energy per unit volume present in the space. This is the volume of the space. So whatever the amount of this work is done, that amount of work done will store as energy in this, right? And so that means that amount of energy will be stored in that space there. And so that now this is the energy density formula here. This U is the total energy. That means if you are taking du is the energy due to that small element. And so now this U and this U is different. This is capital U, and this we are writing energy density generally we represent with the small u. And as I said, if you are writing electric field energy density, we represent with UE, and magnetic field energy density also we define later, that we will represent with UB, magnetic field energy density. And so now this is energy density here. Now here one more thing you can observe this energy density expression is same as that of electrostatic pressure. Electrostatic pressure we are writing the same, and energy density also we are writing the same, right? That means they are numerically same. The electrostatic pressure and energy density are numerically same. Mention that point also. We can also express in terms of this field. So I will write in terms of the field here, this expression. So mention that electric field and energy density are numerically, energy density and electrostatic pressure are numerically same. Therefore this E I can also write, this is our sigma square by 2 epsilon naught expression. Now this expression you can also write in terms of this say electric field. But we know near surface of conductor electric field E is equal to sigma by epsilon naught, right? This is a point for electric field near the surface of conductor, which we derived already. So from this I am writing this sigma is equal to epsilon naught into E, right? So let us substitute that expression here. Therefore this U is equal to epsilon naught square into E square by 2 epsilon naught. Therefore finally what we can write is, this is our half into epsilon naught into E square we can write here. So therefore that is finally our expression for this energy density, we can write like this. So therefore this energy density U is equal to sigma square by 2 epsilon naught, and which is equal to half epsilon naught into E square. So this is our energy density formula. That means if you are writing in terms of surface charge density, you can write like this, sigma square by 2 epsilon naught. Or if you are writing in terms of this electric field, then you can write half epsilon naught E square. That is the energy density in that electric field, right? And so now here regarding they both are numerically same. So whenever this electrostatic pressure is required, then electrostatic pressure is also sigma square by 2 epsilon naught, that you can also write like this, half epsilon naught into A square. And in the previous classes, in the last week, we discussed about self energy. Now those self energy derivations we can also do with the help of this equation here, right? With the help of this energy density equation, we can calculate the self energy calculations also. That means wherever you know the electric field, that means this equation indicates that whenever electric field is there in that region, non-zero electric field is there in that region. Whenever electric field is there, non-zero electric field is there, definitely some energy will be associated with that field. That means if you are placing a charged particle in that field, then we know charged particle will accelerate either in the direction of field or opposite the direction of the field. That means now the charged particle, that means the electric field is doing some work. Now our basic energy definition is nothing but ability to do work is nothing but our energy. So there the field is doing some work. In this electric field, suppose electric field is there, we are releasing a charged particle here. The charged particle will accelerate here. Accelerating in the sense we know work is done on that particle. So who is doing the work? Electric field only. That means electric field is capable of doing work. And so that means it is possessing some energy. That energy is given by this. As that energy is distributed in the space, so we need to define that energy density here. So that means we are defining that energy density, and this is the expression for that energy density. So with the help of this, you can calculate energy density anywhere. Anywhere you can calculate, just we need to substitute that E expression at that point there. And as I said, the previous self energy derivations, the self energy derivations we can do with the help of this energy density also. Like I will explain that shell, then you can do the solid sphere derivation. So this we already derived, just I am explaining that how to derive energy by using this energy density formula, right? So then suppose if I am taking a spherical shell of radius r, having say some charge q distributed on this. Right? Now we are going to define expression for this, we derive an expression for self energy. That means self energy means we know the energy possessed by this sphere without any influence of any other charges. And so now here for this I am taking a point here outside here, and if you are taking a point here inside. So inside the electric field of this electric field due to the shell is 0, but here it is non-zero here. Electric field at this point we can write as q by 4 pi epsilon naught r square we can write, right? So inside it is 0 means electric field is not there inside the spherical shell, means no energy will be present inside the spherical shell. Energy will be there only this outside the spherical shell. And so this sphere, this electric field will extend up to infinity. From the surface of the sphere to up to infinity, this electric field will exist. So until up to this electric, up to that infinity, energy density will also be there. So whatever the self energy of the sphere is there, where that self energy will be stored in the sense, that self energy will be stored from the surface of the sphere to up to infinity. And so now let us derive by using that equation here. So I will explain the self energy derivation by using this energy density calculation. So as we know, this energy density formula is given by this half epsilon naught E square. So that energy density U is equal to, which is nothing but I can write du by dv is equal to half epsilon naught into A square. I am taking this form, right? And so now here to define that, let us write this. Therefore, this du is equal to half epsilon naught into E square into dv, and therefore this du is equal to half epsilon naught into E square. E square is nothing but q by 4 pi epsilon naught into r square whole square into dv. dv expression we need to write. dv is nothing but volume of this small element here. That means here we need to take a small element like this. This is spherical element only. This element is spherical element. So this is r, and this width you can take it as dr. Then volume of that spherical element we need to write here. So volume of that spherical element I can write as 4 pi r square into dr. Right? That is our volume of the spherical element. So then you can simplify this. Therefore du is equal to half epsilon naught into q square by 4 pi epsilon naught square r square into dr. So 1 4 pi r square will be cancelled here. Whole square we are doing. So then remaining 4 pi this epsilon naught square into this one more r square will be there. So let us simplify this. Du is equal to q square by 8 pi epsilon naught into r square into dr. Now we need to integrate this. Therefore this self energy is equal to q square by 8 pi epsilon naught into integral of dr by r square. Now from where to where we need to integrate? From surface to the infinity. And therefore I can write this as from r to infinity we should integrate here. And so then this is nothing but q square by 8 pi epsilon naught into, here this integration is minus 1 by r, and you can substitute the limits here. Then you will get u is equal to q square by 8 pi epsilon naught r, so which is nothing but our self energy which we derived already, right? So that self energy you can also derive like this. With the help of this energy density also we can derive the self energy expression. Similarly you can try for the solid sphere also. Try the derivation for the solid sphere also. The only difference is for solid sphere, that means non-conducting sphere. For non-conducting sphere, inside some charge will be there and outside, that means inside some field will be there and outside also field is there. Here inside field is 0, and that is why only we are integrating outside from r to infinity. But whereas if you are taking that as a non-conducting sphere, if you are taking here, if you are taking some charge is distributed throughout this, if charge is distributing throughout this like this, then if you are taking a point inside, so here also some electric field will exist, non-zero electric field will exist there, right? And so that means indicates that here also some energy will be there. Similarly outside also some electric field will be there, and so outside also some energy will be there. So whatever the energy we derived, self energy of this say in non-conducting sphere, like 3q square by 20 pi epsilon naught r, we derived in the previous classes last week. And so in that that energy, some of energy will be there inside the sphere and some energy will be there outside. And so just we need to derive it in two ways here. Just I will write here how to do that integration. That means that integration term will consist of, that means du means we write like half epsilon naught e square only, and so here into dv. Now therefore u is equal to integral of half epsilon naught e inside into dv. Now this is from 0 to r. Inside electric field we need to write plus half, that means integral of half epsilon naught e outside square into dv. Now here the limits are from infinity, r to infinity we need to write. So now we need to simplify this term here. Got it? So that means inside one expression is there, outside another expression is there. So that means inside we need to write, when you are integrating inside, then we need to substitute the inside formula. When you are integrating outside, you need to substitute the outside formula. So just to substitute this formula and integrate that, dv term will be same. Whether you are taking inside and outside, we take the spherical element only. So the dv term will be 4 pi r square into dr only you will get, volume of the small spherical element. So like you can calculate here. And then from this you can also calculate here. You will get definitely, if you are integrating this, if you are simplifying this, you will get definitely the same answer. And in this you will also get how much energy will be there inside the sphere and how much energy there outside the sphere. So do that integration and then find how much energy is there inside and how much energy is there outside, and whether this final answer is coinciding with our previous derivation or not. Check with that. And then some remaining properties will be there, properties of the conductors, and majorly we need to discuss about some cavities and those cavities problems and the concentric spherical shells and those problems and the parallel plate problems. The remaining a lot of problems are there based on these Gauss law applications. and those problems we will discuss in our next class. Thank you.